Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have former Bachelor and winner of Special Forces Season 2, Nick Viall, from the Viall Files podcast, calling Joey a people pleaser. Nick Viall thinks people pleaser Bachelor Joey is taking the easy way out. Now, of course, whenever we see titles that have quotes, pieced together, copy and paste style, we always know there's more to the story, which we're going to get into. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals for stand-up show updates. I'm in Clarksville this Sunday. If you want some post-Valentine's Day humor, you can come catch me over there. I think end of March, I'll be in Phoenix, and other dates. Find me on DNeals right there. And also every morning and afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, the hit podcast. Find out why we're featured in Time Magazine as the up-and-coming... Okay, whatever. Who cares? Nick... Okay, so anyway, here's the article. We'll just blaze through it. No one's been sent home outside of a rose ceremony. There's been no traumatic exit, Nick said on his podcast. Well, let's just go to the original source material. Unlike some podcasters, I credit the original source, and we'll get into it right now. Here, again, I've got 3 clips I'm going to share for you. And again, I think I'm able to be relatively objective when it comes to Nick's commentary. I think he's really good, if this is what you want to do, at saying things that get printed in the media. He's very good at kind of taking a hard stance on The Bachelor, how they're performing based on how he performed. So what we're going to watch is Nick has a hard time seeing Joey as so likable and says, you're not even doing the fun stuff. You're not sending people home where you're not supposed to, this and that. Have a listen.
Forced. Maria's story felt a bit forced.
Did you think so? I liked it.
What was her story?
Nick says Maria's story felt a bit forced. That story being her mom got into a severe... And this is where it's so tough when you share something very traumatic, right? Because then you get blokes online that can just comment on it. Maria's mom was in a severe accident that left her very messed up for a long time, which led Maria to not having a good relationship with her mother. And Nick's only response is, it felt a little forced.
Sorry.
Her story was like, I don't take these fights so seriously because I've faced death in the past personally. She
said she was 1 year old.
She was 1, and she got in a car accident with her mom, and she was pronounced dead.
Yeah.
And then
it seems as if the producers are trying to sell Nick on humanity. They're like, Nick, she was pronounced dead at the scene, and Nick's like, yeah, but she was 1. What are you going to do? It's not exactly the accident, Nick. It's the fallout from that. She didn't have a childhood with her flipping mother, Nick.
I guess her mom kind of, wasn't able to bounce back so quickly, and their relationship has felt the effects of that. But we were actually going to ask you what you thought about general timing of telling your traumatic story to the Bachelor or Bachelorette, because
if you have to tell it on a first, usually I would say if you have to tell your dramatic story, I would say on your first one-on-one, or certainly not even on a one-on-one, then you're not winning. Especially if you are being encouraged to tell your story.
Are you talking about Maria?
Anyone, really.
Because it's like Christina on your season was trying to tell you about her traumatic story, and Nick was like, don't hold on to it until you get your one-on-one.
I was like, wait for your one-on-one.
That to me just shows how calculated Nick was. Even on his own season, he knew exactly how this game worked. How do you find love in that scenario? That's cheating, right? Joey probably doesn't have the same roadmap Nick does. He seems to just be a nice guy. And yes, you could qualify that as a people pleaser, but what a negative way to look at that, isn't it?
So if you are allowed to tell your traumatic story early, then chances are, this isn't always the case, because my first one-on-one was with Danielle, and she told a very sad story about her ex passing.
Right.
And they very much wanted that story told on the first date. So it really varies. The longer you can wait, the more you are endgame.
Yeah. All right. The longer you wait, the more you are endgame. All right. Let's go to what he has to say about Joey not making hard decisions.
Critique Joey here. I just wanted him to send Rachel home. And it had nothing to do with nothing against Rachel. It was just more like up until her one-on-one, I didn't, remember her, which it seems like they have a really strong connection after the date, but no one's been sent home.
I want him to send Rachel home, even though he has a strong connection with her.
Out of a rose ceremony. There's been no traumatic exit. There's been no, there's been...
Besides Sydney. right? Because she was outside of the rose ceremony.
That was a 2-on-1 though.
You were hoping he would send her home.
There's been Joey hasn't sent anyone home outside the format of the show.
You were hoping that he would send her home when they had extra time.
So here's how it works, right? When Rachel Recchia knew that Jordan wasn't the one, in my eyes, it was because he wasn't 6 foot tall. I'm convinced that Rachel Recchia liked Jordan, but he didn't fit into some magical thought of what she wanted her knight in shining armor to look like. That's my opinion. I was like, what's wrong with Jordan? Remember him? He was a great guy. Why'd she send him home? What was wrong with him? Well, maybe he wasn't tall. I don't know. I literally couldn't see anything else. But I guess that was enough to get the ick. So when you look at the one-on-ones that Joey has had, the only way he's going to send someone home at this point is if it's a bad one-on-one. Who's he had a bad one-on-one with? Maybe Joey is more versatile than Nick, so he gets along with more people. Do you know what I mean? Nick, which isn't a bad thing, is very specific acquired taste. Some people like him, some people hate him. That's just where he stands, which is good because it can get rid of the riffraff. But I kind of feel like I'm like Joey, where I look at these 30 women and I could probably date all of them. At one aspect, you can find the good in them. Maybe it wouldn't last for a long time, but on a first date, you're like, yeah, we had a blast. Joey's that type of guy. He's like a 5-tool athlete. He's good looking. He's super charming, and he genuinely seems like a nice guy, which is what it comes down to. Now, anyone who tries to sell you that they're a nice guy, I would watch out for them. I would watch out for people that try to sell you on them being a nice guy. Oh, I'm just a nice guy doing nice guy things. Okay, you creep, whatever. Joey's just out there serving tennis and doing a great season. He's one of the most popular bachelors in a long time, and that doesn't sit well with Nick.
No, I was hoping he would not give her the date on the one-on-one. On a 2-on-1, you have to send someone. I mean, you don't have to. There's technically no rules. I mean, but that's the format of the show. You go on a 2-on-1, someone gets sent home, or both of them get sent home. But no, Joey didn't send both of them home. He sent one of them home. Everyone else has gone home on a rose ceremony. There's been no interaction where Joey's sitting down with someone. They're having some sort of conversation. And in that moment, Joey's like, you know what? You're not my person. No offense. You seem lovely, but I just don't think there's a fit here. And not because anything traumatic is happening or dramatic or anything like that, but just Joey being honest and realizing that this person's not their person. It's hard to do. I did that a lot, and I thought it would be more authentic. But to me, that just Joey, the people pleaser, wanting to be kind of nice. It comes across as super nice. It very much does, but it's less authentic. It's also the easy way out. It's much easier to not give someone a rose than to actually say, hey, listen,
not it.
I just don't think this is it.
Again, this is Joey in the 5th episode, 4th week. So, again, I'll tell you what, I'll be completely honest. What Nick is saying is not nearly as bad as what it looks like here in this article. Nick thinks people pleaser Joey is taking sure, he said those quotes. In context, it's Nick wanting Joey to be more like Nick. And this, by the way, I don't know. I'm sure Nick will be a good dad. I hope I'll be a good dad. There's no competing over who's going to be a better dad. That's silly, right? But what I do want to look out for on my own level is not trying to make my son turn into me. You know what I mean? I mean, if he's lucky, he will, right? Power recapper, baby. Come on. That's going to be the hard part. I have a family member who was a top tier football star, top tier. And his son wanted to play soccer. And that family member, my uncle, provided all the resources to help him succeed at soccer. He didn't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. He said, this is what you want to do. I want you to be that. And again, we're probably stalling for time here, so we're making this a little more thorough than it needs to be. With Nick, he wants Joey to be like Nick. Do like I did. Do the tough things. You want people to not like you. It'll get you closer to your goal. Nick, you didn't succeed with your partner. It didn't work out for you. So any advice you have from what you did on your season is moot. It's a moot point. And whether there's a traumatic or dramatic exit, I understand from the audience's perspective, you want to see the gladiator pull all these moves. But from Joey's perspective, he's just enjoying the ride. He's enjoying all these dates. Now, will it lead to him having harder decisions to make I mean, it's not like he's not sending anyone home. Nick's almost accusing Joey of being like, well, I'm not giving any roses, or I'm giving all the roses out. Everyone gets a participation trophy. No, he's doing it at the rose ceremony, but he's enjoying himself on these dates. Probably a testament to the character of who Joey is. He's a free-flowing tennis player who hangs out in Hawaii. He's not ruffling feathers. Is that a people pleaser? By the definition, maybe, but I also reject the definition.
Can I walk you out, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And there's just no way he's having all these one-on-ones and realizing with all these women that there's a strong connection. And to me, when a bachelor or a bachelorette doesn't send anyone home outside of the format of the show, you know, it makes their actual connection seem a little less authentic.
I reject that premise completely. For me, those that aren't as dramatic, and I don't know. Let me know what you think. We actually have more Nick content coming up in the form of Caitlin Bristow snapping back. So we're going to have all that and more. We'll be pretty livid on today's Patreon if you've been following some of the censorship happening online. The Clayton Echard support group on Reddit has been disbanded, deleted. No rose for the Clayton Echard support group. We'll be discussing that story, which is wild. Hey, you don't have to be a part of it, but the fact that it was deleted, not by the moderators, but by the person who doesn't want the truth coming out, that's wild stuff in 2024. We'll have more on that on the Patreon at noon Central Time, patreon.com/Dave Neal. We'll be back right after this.